Available official records show that Nigeria is endowed with over 44 commercially viable solid minerals deposits spread over the nation, some of which include gold, iron ore, tin, gemstones, columbite, topaz, limestone, and uranium.
However, despite the huge proven deposits that you just mentioned, Kirian, the country has received fairly little value on solid minerals in recent decades. And of course, it's been the question more of the country being shortchanged. No thanks, of course, to illegal activities in the mining sector, plus other factors as recorded over the years.
Yes, indeed, Kinsley, because the potential to the many minerals available to Nigeria cannot be overemphasized, of which is comparable to highly endowed nations. Yet much is being left untapped, and the capacity to the extractive sector is another ball game entirely, more like an all-commerce affair.
Well, it's certainly the case that with emphasis being placed on hydrocarbons, namely the oil sector, which gained ascendancy from the 1970s onwards, there has been neglect, as it were, of the solid minerals sector, particularly with regard to controlling the activities of those who operate in that sector.
Of course, we would actually later jettison this, and for some time now, this scourge of illegal mining growing by the day is a clear and present danger to the achievement of economic diversification and Nigeria's national security.
Now, for the northwest region alone, records indicate an estimated 80% of mining is carried on illegally and very much so on an artisanal level by local populations. Some, it's said, to be in connivance with foreign traders with total disregard for regulations and security of lives as well as protection of the environment.
Yes, indeed. Not only in the Northwest, lives in some of the mining host communities so vulnerable in terms of environmental degradation and risks. Other parts of the country have also witnessed banditry and outright conflicts being unleashed for the illegal activities to flourish.
Well, as it were, while legal and constitutional provisions do vest the federal government with control of mineral resources in the country, including, of course, the mining processes and licensing. One question to ask is whether subnational governments are themselves also not interested in what takes place around their localities, particularly with regard to the operations of illegal mining gangs. Now, what is the regulation of the sector looking like at the moment?
Pertinent questions, Kinsley, and so as we attempt to connect the dots of increased illegal mining activities and the many unending conflicts and general insecurity across the landscapes, where is the place of effective resources, harnessing control, regulation, and safety to the extractive business and communities? This will form the thrust of the discussion today. I am Kirian Umai. Welcome to Good Morning Nigeria for today.
And I'm Kingsley Osadolo. I join my colleague Kirian to also welcome you to the program. We are reaching you on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority, the NTA, live from our nation's capital, Abuja. In the course of the program, we shall also have our complimentary segments, and those, of course, will include newspaper review. For now, let's join Comfort Amodu for the highlights of the morning news. Good morning, Comfort.
Good morning, Kinsley and Kirian. And here's the morning news. Now, issues relating to the alleged maltreatment of Nigerian businessmen in the Republic of Ghana dominated discussions as President Muhammadu Buhari granted audience to the Speaker, House of Representatives Femi Gbajabiamila. It was reported that the President also had engagement with Governor Hope Uzodinma, on the menace of erosion in Imo State.
Parliament in Ghana to look at the issues on ground as it affects our citizens and to try and calm things down and see if there's a way forward. And we hope that we'll come to an amicable settlement one way or the other. As you know, I have set up a group called the COSAP, Conference of Speakers of African Parliaments, and we'll be looking at issues from time to time as they affect African countries.
And the Community Court of Justice, ECOWAS, has described as fake and mischievous a report by one Malik Abbas Dabo titled "ECOWAS Court Dismisses Case Against Ghana" in a publication of 20th November 2013, online on www.myjoyonline.com. A statement by the President, Community Court of Justice, ECOWAS, Edward Amako Asante, condemns the report and disowns the purported judgment as the court did not deliver such judgment. The case was struck out by the court on the 5th of November 2013 for want of diligent prosecution due to the absence in court of the counsel to the applicant, with cost of 800,000 naira awarded in favor of the defendant. A statement therefore urges members of the public and community citizens to completely disregard the report in the online publication, as the case was never heard on the merits and the court did not deliver any judgment in the case. And with the prevalence of flooding and other crises leading to much humanitarian issues in the country, this cannot be said to be the best of time for the ministry in charge, headed by Sadiya Umar Farouk. An impromptu meeting held on Tuesday in the office of the Vice President sought for greater cooperation and support from all tiers of government, as well as the people, in addressing these humanitarian concerns, especially in the Northeast.
We're here specifically to meet on the humanitarian and security situation in the Northeast. And we held the meeting successfully and it's fruitful.
This is one of such cooperations that we are having. We are collaborating and we are working together to see that we achieve the same common objective of addressing the humanitarian issues in the northeastern part of this country as well as other parts of the country.
And in other stories, Dr. Akinwumi Ayodeji Adesina has been sworn in as president of the African Development Bank, AFDB, for a second term of 5 years. He is the first Nigerian to be elected and re-elected to serve as president of the AFDB. The oath of office was administered by Kenneth Ofori-Atta, of Ghana's finance minister and chair of the AFDB Board of Governors.
With all humility, as the president elected by all, I will be the president for all.
The Minister of Communications and Digital Economy has urged Nigerians to be bold enough in supporting and promoting indigenous digital solutions to deal with the present and future impact of the pandemics. He said this during the virtual launch and award ceremony of the COVID-19 research grant organized by the Nigerian Communications Commission, NCC.
The GCF is so passionate about indigenous solutions. It is because of this I use the opportunity as well to motivate NCC and at the same time on behalf of the federal government to direct them to institutionalize the grant.
This competition aimed at producing homegrown solutions.
And scaling up institutionalization of African traditional medicine in the health system in Africa is key in promoting the development of traditional medicine. This is the thrust of discussion as Nigeria joins the world to celebrate 2020 African traditional medicine. The theme of this year's celebration is 2 decades of African traditional medicine, 2001 to 2020. What progress in countries?
Promotion, development, researching, and ultimate integration of traditional medicine into the mainstream healthcare delivery system.
Within a very short while, it is very clear that policy-wise, we are finally getting it right.
The Association of Resident Doctors Federal Capital Territory Administration have embarked on strike over non-payment of COVID-19 hazard and inducement allowance, as well as non-implementation of the variation of the 2018 promotion exercise, amongst other issues. In a communique after its virtual emergency general meeting on Monday, President of the chapter, Dr. Roland Agbuvo, said this follows expiration of a 14-day ultimatum given to the FCT administration.
Hazard allowance and the non-implementation of the variation of our members.
My wife is not that sound and she just gave birth new. Coming to the hospital, even for them to attend to her, they said doctors are on strike.
The Nigerian Center for Disease Control has confirmed 239 new cases of COVID-19 in 15 states of the Federation as at 1st of September 2020. A breakdown of the figures show that Plateau State still has the highest confirmed cases of 116, followed by the FCT with 33, then Lagos with 19 cases, Ekiti has 12, Kaduna and Ogun States have 11 cases each. Others are Ebonyi State with 8, Benue 7, Abia and Delta recorded 5 cases each, while Ondo State has 4, Edo State with 3, Imo and Osun both have 2 new cases, and Bauchi State has 1 case. So far, Nigeria has 54,247 confirmed cases of COVID-19, out of which 42,010 patients were discharged, while 1,023 have died of the virus. That's the news. The program continues shortly with Kinsley and Kieran after this break. Good morning.
She cries. She cries in anguish and in pain. She bears the scourge of her grief. She toils in vain for justice and succumbs to silence. He gloats over his malady. Like a beast, he pounces with no remorse. Her cry means nothing. Her pain feeds her shame. Like an orphan, she's left to grieve in solitude. But no more will she cry in vain. Her adversaries will henceforth bear the brunt of their cruelty. Rape is evil. Rape is a plague, a pandemic of monumental consequences. We must unite and kick it out of our society.
Connect with NTA and stand against rape and rapists. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
You're watching Good Morning Nigeria on the network service of the Nigerian Television Authority. Now it's time for business news with the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission partnering with the Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission to reduce revenue losses. Let's join our correspondent, Ronami Egirani.
The Revenue Mobilization, Allocation and Fiscal Commission, RMAFC, has agreed to partner with the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, EFCC, to better monitor and plug leaks involved in the process of remitting generated revenue accruable to the Federation account by the revenue generating and collection agencies. The RMAFC is one of the 14 executive bodies provided in the 1999 Constitution as amended to also monitor revenue accruals and disbursements from the Federation account. And on the stock market on Tuesday, 1st of September 2020, all-share index increased 0.34%, closing at 25,413 points. Market capitalization closed at 13.258 trillion naira. Gains made were impacted by stocks like Nigerian breweries and Stanbic. With business news, I'm Ronami Egirani.
Oh, thank you, Ronami, for that business package. And next on the program is Newspaper Review.
All right, we have three newspapers for review this morning. I have the Punch newspaper. It's also Daily Trust. And we'll be taking a look at the editorial from the Nation newspaper. Punch newspaper, above the nameplate, says ShopRite moves to challenge order stopping assets transfer. That's page 9. CAMA, that's CAMA stands for the Companies and Allied Matters Act. CAN, being Christian Association of Nigeria, writes Buhari says law a danger to national interest. It is on page 8. NLC, MAN and others kick against electricity tariff hike. Bajabia Miller visits Buhari, embarks on peace shuttle to Ghana. And then earpieces there beside the nameplate relate to Edo Decides 2020. They have the governorship election coming up in just about 17 days. Don't turn Edo to a war zone, CSO tells politicians. That's page 7. On page 27, Yaga raises security concerns, identifies 13 flashpoints. And on page 8, allegations against Edo and Ondo Rex, standing for resident electoral commissioners, mere distractions, and that's according to INEC. This story comes with a kicker: water resources, confusion over bill as reps leaders disagree over hearing. Will shoot it down again. Southern and Middle Belt lawmakers mobilize against bill. Public hearing held in 8th Assembly. We won't hold another, committee chair. And you have photographs from various hospitals in the Federal Capital Territory yesterday showing the deserted hallways on account of the strike by resident doctors. 2 policemen killed as truck crashes into Oshomole's convoy. That's page 9. Mr. President, wear face mask too. Ex-ACF secretary tells Buhari. That's page 7. Kogi orders reopening of schools September 14th. And we are extending our membership beyond North. That's according to the new NBA. Details on page 7. Bauchi flood kills 3 persons, destroys 200 houses. National Assembly denies receiving 20 million naira palliative from NEDC. Carry on.
All right, to the Daily Trust newspaper. Top to bottom, floods, 2 dead. Farm produce worth over 5 billion naira lost in Bauchi and Kebbi State. It's on page 4, or page 6 rather. Senators vow to reject water resources bill. It's also on page 4. Daily Trust not yet served with Fani Kayode's letter. They're all on page 4. Nigerians kick as discos hike electricity tariff with 3 riders, increase marks. Another chapter of difficulties, says consumers. More money for power suppliers. Manufacturers label, others reject hike. Now, just the bottom of the newspaper, well, they just displayed the electricity tariff increase in some graphic form here. But needless going through that, you can get the Daily Trust newspaper for details. But below that, we have some other stories. Additional sworn in as African Development Bank president. It's on page 20. Zamfara APC Buni Committee orders expulsion of Marafa faction chair. It's on page 40. Anambra police arrest woman for buying stolen children. It's on page 36.
All right, carry on. There's not many stories to discuss, except, of course, the lead stories for the papers. Nigerians kicking against the hike in electricity tariff. We just have to ask ourselves the context in which this is happening. You can see businesses are down. The inflation rate has been on the upward climb for several months running now on account of the data released by the National Bureau of Statistics. We're seeing with the deregulation of the downstream sector of the petroleum industry, prices of refined petroleum products, namely petrol, those prices are unstable but mostly they've been going up. And now you have a hike coming from this. Fuel prices are up, electricity prices are also up. And then you ask yourself, ultimately, how then do Nigerians cushion themselves against the economic ravages of the pandemic, as we have seen elsewhere around the world?
Yes, well, this issue of hiking, this tariff has been on for a while now. It's been on for a while now, and each time it comes up, Nigerians, reject it in totality. But it keeps rearing its ugly head. So this time around, Nigerians are also kicking again as this goes now hike. I would want to understand really, who gives the order, or rather, who has the final say, when it comes to the hike in tariff? Was it the National Assembly?
No, it's the President. The President gave the approval. There has been pressure, of course, for the hike in electricity tariff, and the claim there is that poor consumers, or consumers who are low-income earners, will not be affected, but those who are high-income earners and above, of course, will be impacted. Those who are high-income earners have been impacted also by the coronavirus pandemic.
Exactly.
There's no question about that. I mean, businesses are down, so high-income earners don't have the returns either on their investments in the first instance, or in some cases, workers have been owed several months of salaries. You may have to take a look, for instance, at the newspapers. When you see the size of papers that we are reviewing these days, this is almost half the size of the papers that we had before the pandemic. And so they have employees, they have other stakeholders. The advertising industry is not faring any much better, and on and on. So where are the high-income earners coming from to say that, okay, they can afford the cost of the hike? And this is at a time when the lingering issues in the distribution subsector of the electricity value chain, those issues have still not been resolved.
Exactly.
It's not as if, as we are raising the electricity tariff now, all households or those who desire to be metered have been fully metered.
They're just compounding the entire case concerning the power value chain. I think some of these things need to be deliberated upon before you come up with this increase. We've been hearing this increase for a while now, as I said earlier on. So I think it's better for the presidency to act on it. Of course, say, look, this is what it should be, so that we will avoid all this issue of each time discourse will come up with a high constitution and giving some reasons here and there, not reminding, as rightly pointed out, the issue of the impact of COVID-19 on the national economy. There's this issue of a lady who's been buying stolen children in Anambra State. She has been nabbed. That's a very good story.
It's a good development in terms of course. That's part of human trafficking that you find on the domestic environment.
And for you to buy children, I wonder what she does with the children. Does she
to traffic them?
To traffic them outside Nigeria or within Nigeria?
It could also be either within or outside Nigeria. Now that she has been nabbed, the key thing is to prosecute her speedily and be sure that she faces justice as quickly as possible. Now, there's a story, Kirian, I read this a while ago, and it was all over the social media yesterday. It says 2 policemen killed as truck crashes into Oshomolo's convoy. You can find that headline below the photographs there on the front page of the Punch newspaper. Unfortunately, 2 policemen were killed in that crash. Oshomole was going for a campaign at a place called Usen, that's in Edo South, and they were on the expressway. That's the Benin-Lagos expressway, and incidentally, the convoy and the truck were traveling in the same direction. So this wasn't a case of a head-on collision. Rather, it was that according to the story, it was a case of the truck side-swiping one of the vehicles in the convoy of the APC, and the vehicle that was hit was the one conveying the security details, and two policemen unfortunately got killed.
When you see all these convoy, you know, on the move, you know, they tend to be a little bit, careless on the road, honestly speaking, because the way they drive, all these convoys, you know, they swerve on the road, they want to stop everybody moving on the road. There's this overzealous nature of the young men, you know, especially the security operatives on the convoy. If you watch convoy, of course you know what I'm talking about. They swerve on the road, they swerve, you know, they do, I mean, such things should be, you know, I mean, you're going for a campaign, right? I'm not sure, but I want to know that, I want to believe that, you know, because of all those maneuvering, trying to maneuver on the road must have led to, since they are traveling in the same direction. If it was the opposite direction, you know, that would have been a different story. Perhaps maybe somebody was overtaken wrongly and they had to collide. But in this case, they're traveling along the same direction. So what would have caused accidents if not for either swerving or trying to maneuver on the road and what have you? That is on record. I've seen that a number of times, you know.
Well, yeah, the point about the story, from the facts that I've read now and what also emerged from the various statements issued yesterday, is that the convoy was traveling at the legitimate, regulated speed, and it wasn't the case of vehicles, overspeeding or any of the vehicles in the convoy trying to block some of that truck. No, at the point it happened, it's a fairly straight, portion of the expressway. Anyone who's familiar with the Benin-Lagos expressway will be familiar with it, would understand what we're talking about. We do hope, of course, that investigations will be carried out. It's not the first time, by the way, that Shomole has had an involvement in a road crash. That sometime in the past, while he was governor, he also had the same similar incident. That was in Edo North, where a truck also crashed into his convoy. All right, so the other story, of course, is the contentious one with regard to the Water Resources Bill. It's a lot of confusion, as the headline says. Confusion over bill as reps leaders disagree over hearing. Now, there's a story indicating that the Senate, some members of the Senate are saying, whatever happens in the House of Reps, when it comes to them, they would do the needful. The confusion, of course, would needlessly drag on for a while.
Why do we always have this manner of confusion? We're always having confusion when some bills are tabled at the National Assembly. I mean, we keep having confusion and things like that. If the water bill, you know, it should be something, I mean, we should look out for, you know, because as far as I'm concerned, if it's a water bill, it has to perhaps correct either some anomalies in the water value chain or bring in some new ideas and what have you. Now, that doesn't call for confusion. So one, waiting for it to come and to strike it out, you know, when it comes. I mean, it's not. I don't think it's healthy. You know, let it come first. Study the bill, you know, before you begin to say that if it comes, that you are going to be against it, you know, in the first instance. Yeah,
well, that's the confusion arises from the nature of the bill in circulation at the moment. If you recall, there's a similar occurrence with regard to the PIB, that's the Petroleum Industry Bill. At some point, many versions were said to have been in circulation. In this particular case, it has been alleged that the bill in circulation has not been gazetted as required by the rules of the House of Representatives, and that rather it was a bill that was earlier discussed and struck down when it was presented at the 8th National Assembly. So if you are representing it, the one that was passed doesn't now contain the one that was passed now contains the provisions of the ones that got struck down in the first instance when it came up for debate. So they're saying that, look, they want to have a clean copy of the bill so that you look at the provisions, and there are issues that have been raised with regard to the provisions of the bill. Professor Wole Soyinka, for instance, has spoken about that. A number of other persons have also spoken about the provisions of the bill with regard to ownership of water sources and what to do and how to pay for it and all of that, plus, of course, the politics surrounding it. So this has to do with their processes. I think that's more important, the politics around it, right? It's more important now. The editorial is there. We have tighter control. That's MAN. I mean, that's the Manufacturers Association of Nigeria. Said for the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, last week heralded
a skew of new resources. Let me get that correctly. It's very important we take this very paragraph for us to have a better understanding of this. He said, for the Central Bank of Nigeria, CBN, last week heralded a slew of new measures to save the Nigeria and to improve exchange rate stability. First, he says it will no longer approve payment of foreign exchange from applicants who do so through a company and agent. Rather than dissipate energies at a measure which we have long argued is born of exigency, what MAN and other bodies should be doing now is collaborating with CBN to ensure that the Nigerian economy is best served at this very difficult time.
All right, Kirian, let me just talk about some technicalities with regard to editorials. I can see you're still struggling there to sort out the text of the editorial. Yeah. We do hope that the editorial writers, that is the leader writers, the production crew are listening. Usually editorials are set on the different point size, and also they're also set bold to distinguish it from the other text that you have. Yes. We do hope you can increase the point size so my colleague Kira doesn't have to struggle with his lenses to sort out the text.
Yeah, I just saw one story, on Sun this morning, that henceforth that savings accounts will now be, will now pay some.
No, the interest rate has been reduced.
Reduced.
Yeah, by the central bank.
Reduction, not that one has to, just like you pay some money for depositing the. I don't want to understand the difference.
Interest rates on savings deposits, savings accounts
was slashed.
Yes, it's been slashed.
Okay.
It's been slashed. It's about 1.something%.
Not that you have to be charged for saving.
No. Well, that policy still remains. I mean, you're a big man. If you were to deposit over 500,000 naira in cash, there is a levy you pay above the 500,000. There's a certain percentage of
on the savings accounts or current accounts.
No. Whether savings or current, you have that. That's still on. That's cash transactions now. The whole purpose is, it's not the same thing as, this is interest on savings accounts.
Savings accounts,
yes.
All right.
Not cash deposits or cash withdrawals.
Okay.
Yes, that's different. All right, that's it for our newspaper reviews segment this morning. We'll take a short break now. When we return, we'll go ahead with our topic for discussion.
NTA TV College Jos, an affiliate of Ahmadu Bello University Zaria, is currently admitting students for its ordinary diploma programs in television journalism, television production, and television engineering. Interested candidates are advised to obtain relevant information concerning eligibility at our website at www.ntatvc.edu.ng or marketing department of any NTA station nationwide. For further information, contact Assistant Director Marketing, NTA TV College Jos on 0803-314-4383 or the Academic Office of the College on 0806-980-9807. Announcer, Registrar.
The Smartphone Network.
From what we have seen, we have the capacity which we can rapidly develop or feed in ourselves. If we don't import rice, we stop importing corn and other grains, Nigeria will have plenty of money to invest into developing industries, especially manufacturing, textiles and so on, and develop iron and steel, and complement the infrastructure development. So really, the opportunities are virtually limitless, and we are very, very aware of this, and we are prepared to exploit it to the fullest.
We're still watching Good Morning Nigeria and the network service of the NTA. Our focus is on securing the mining communities in the country. As a prompt for the conversation, let's now take a report put together by Oyeyemi Ajayi.
Nigeria is one nation endowed with human and natural resources, with many potentials remaining grossly untapped. Though the present administration since inception had campaigned the need for diversification of the country's mainstay of income, which is the oil, many have questioned if the availability of many mineral resources in the country is indeed a blessing or curse. Let's call to mind the illegal mining activities of the minerals in the country, a trend posing serious threats to host communities of the natural resources. The federal government announced that Nigeria loses $3 billion to illegal smuggling of gold, which has been a limiting factor of the sector becoming the mainstay of the country's economy, which is expected to generate no fewer than 250,000 jobs and over $500 million annually in royalty and taxes to the federal government. It is said that the illegal gold mining pulls the trigger for rural banditry and fuels local conflicts in some parts of Nigeria, which includes the northwest, north central, among other regions. This is mainly due to weak and inadequate regulations to the sector's activities over the years. An estimated 80% of mining in the northwest region is carried out illegally and on an artisanal basis by local populations. The mining of large untapped mineral deposits in the area, especially gold, which has strategic importance and economic value, is at the root of community violence. Sadly, the news of the trade of gold for weapons by foreigners has been an eye-opener to where bandits tend to get access to weapons to terrorize the mining communities especially. Recurring questions for many will be how many of these small arms and light weapons have found their ways into the country through this illegal trade. How can these be curbed and the illegal mining retooled for better and legal business coordination and boost the country's GDP? How best can the mining communities be adequately protected? Guest on NTA's Good Morning Nigeria will be answering these questions and others shortly.
All right, thank you very much, Oyeyemi Ajayi, for that background. With us in the studios this morning, we'd like to welcome Malam Yakubu Mohammed Yakubu. He's a mining operator. His area of operation is in Shiroro, and that's in Niger State. Malam Yakubu, pleasure to have you with us on the program.
Thank you very much.
Also here with us in the studios is Professor Aliu Jauro, who is the Director General, National Environmental Standards and Regulations Enforcement Agency. Professor Aliu, pleasure to have you with us on the program this morning.
Good morning, it's a pleasure.
Now,
all right, I think we have also Mr. Dako Jude Early, Commissioner for Solid Minerals, Plateau State. He is in our Jos studio. It's good to have you join us from Jos. Hello. Well, I hope you heard me, Mr. Dako Jude Early, Commissioner for Solid Minerals, Plateau State. You are reaching us from Jos studio. It's a pleasure, once again, a pleasure to have you join us on the program.
Thank you.
All right, Dr. Kabir Adamu, of course, a security risk management expert who is a regular face on this program, is also here with us at the Abuja studio. Dr. Kabir Adamu, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you. Good morning, Kieran.
All right. Once again, gentlemen, pleasure to have you join us on the program this morning. Let's begin with the Honorable Commissioner for Solid Minerals in Plateau State, whom my colleague Kieran introduced a while ago, Dr. Dako Jude Early. Ellie, give us a sense of what is happening with regard to mining activities generally in Plateau State before we start getting into the issue of how secure miners are or how secure the various communities are.
Okay, good morning and welcome to this program.
I am Commissioner for Mineral Development, Plateau State. As we are aware, in Nigeria, mining started in Jos since way back in 1902. And of course, since then, Plateau State has remained the home of tin mining. And of recent, other minerals are also discovered, which are lead, zinc, tourmaline, and other minerals in Plateau State. They are being mined in commercial quantity. And currently, we as a ministry, we monitor the activities of miners in the state to also ensure that there are no illegal miners. And for the artisanal miners, we are currently grouping them into cooperatives to make sure that we give them a sense of belonging. Even though most often people believe that they are illegal miners, which we don't term them as illegal miners, because they are also a source of revenue to refer to the government. And also they earn their living from this local mining, because it's been a customary thing. And of course, they do it in order to sustain living. And currently, the minerals that are mostly mined artisanally is the tin and columbite, because most of them they occur in the form of alluvium and residual deposits, which are not so deep into the ground. You cannot easily mine lead and zinc artisanally. But of course, in Jos, we are witnessing a great improvement in mining, most especially with the coming of His Excellency, the Governor of Plateau State, Right Honorable Dr. Simon Bakola Long. He has encouraged this ministry by placing it as one of his focal points. And currently, mining is being placed as one of the key economic driver of Plateau State policy. We in the Plateau State, of course, as we are aware that we as a state government don't take royalty, but there's a policy that's been formulated by the State Executive Council so that haulage, ground rent, and other revenues are being collected from miners. We take haulage because most of the roads that these materials are being transported, and you know their locations is not always inside town. You have to go to the nooks and crannies to source for the minerals. So we take haulage in order to develop and to construct the infrastructure so that we can make the roads viable, and to also ensure that the state also benefits from the mining. And again, with the coming of His Excellency, we used to have a company, the Plateau State Mineral Development Company, which is being resuscitated. And currently, it's a vehicle that, though it's private driven, as a vehicle that we are using in order to go into mining and to sustain the economy of the state.
All right, thank you. Now back to the studio here in Abuja. Yakubu Mohammed Yakubu is a mining operator. Let us get your own view of mining activities in Nigeria, especially in the area where you operate.
Okay, thank you very much. My point of view is that, honestly, mining needs funding first. It needs capital funding, access to funding. So if you have funding, you have control of mining. That's the best I can say much about mining. So in terms of other things, controlling the site, you know, like you said, my colleague said here, the Commissioner of Mining of Niger State, most of we operators that operate in the mining sectors, or the mining industry, we face challenges of the artisanals in the mining site. That's the basic challenges that we're facing with them. So we try all our best to see that we manage them well, we give them what they want, we make some community development there to make them so that you assist us to make it we'll have more free to our sites, we'll have more access to our sites. If not, we have not been where we are. All these years, honestly, we thank the President of Nigeria for asking us to make it more greater in mining sector. But honestly, we need more to be done in the mining sector in terms of even gold mining. Like me, we're into mining gold in Niger City, part of Shiroro. So since when we started 2015, nothing has been done. Nothing. Honestly, we have been stranded. We have been looking for the access to the fund. Nothing has been done. So I think the best thing I would advise the government that there should be access to the funding. Like now, they say that we should go to BOI. We went to the BOI, the best they can give us 100 million. We are looking for almost 2 billion naira to have access to the funds. Even to go to the site, you have to have a lever. That's what we call it a miner. We have to have a lever to even to have access to the site. So all these things, you have to look at us, the operators that operate in the sites. We have a lot of challenges, honestly. We need government to come in and support us very well, honestly.
Could you explain what you mean by, excuse me, you have to have a lever before you can go to your site?
Meaning lever is, where we're mining is a thinking forest. It's a thinking forest. So even to have access to where we're mining, you have to have the lever because of this kidnapping, insecurity there. So even when you are going, you have to get a mobile pole. Like now, our company, we just start with the IG escort police to be have access to all the sites anytime we are going. From all this is money. So there's a lot of money in the mining sector, even in gold. That's why we are. Honestly, we need.
How long have you been in mining?
Since when the present administration came into power, President Buhari advised us that we should go into mining agriculture. So I thank God for him for advising us on that area. So we are doing well. Honestly, we have all our data now. What we need is only the funding, the support. That's what we need. We have all our data of the areas. All we need is the funding.
Let me ask you again. I mean, this is not a personal interview, but it will help in illuminating the issues. What were you doing before you got into mining? And what were your expectations when you got into mining?
Honestly, when I'm into real estate before, at the same time I'm into farming. So I know all these things. I know that there's a lot of, because I have a lot of consultants that I work with them. So they tell me more, even the foreign firms, they are into real estate and the farming, to advise me that the way the world is going, we have to diversify. I thank God when Mr. President came into power, so he advised us that we should diversify into mining. So I thank God we have a very good side. What we need is just the expertise and the capital funding. That's what we need.
You have the liver. I have the liver.
I was going to ask you that. You have the liver to move into the thick forest.
Yes.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
If I started 2015 with my funding up to date, so all this is my funding I'm using, no 1 naira up to now.
Up to now.
Yeah.
Okay, but you are
a private investor.
Yes, I'm a private investor, but it's my private company.
And you have the machinery to do that.
Yeah, we have the local machinery. That's why we need heavy equipment, machineries to move forward, so that we can meet up our demands.
Professor Ali Jaro, DG, National Environmental Standards and Regulations Enforcement Agency. Mining has a lot to do with the environment. And in some cases in this country, in the past, we've had the issue of environmental problems that led to the death of some persons, lead poisoning and others. Now, what should be the role of your agency, when it comes to mining activities in Nigeria?
Thank you very much. The National Environmental Standards and Regulation Enforcement Agency, NESRIA, we have the mandate to ensure compliance with all environmental rules, regulations, policies to do with the environment. So if you look at mining, which is done by excavating the soil, we assess the minerals underground. So in the course of mining, a lot of environmental impacts is being experienced. First of all, before assessing the mining site, mostly you need to make an access road. From there, you clear a lot of the plants, you disturb the ecosystem, and when you set up the mining site, you need to, for instance, remove the overburden, before you reach the mineral of interest. So in the course of doing that, you disturb the ecosystem, and that ecosystem will impact on the water quality. You pollute the water, you pollute the soil, you also pollute the air. Likewise, it affects both the flora and fauna, because most of these minerals, just as mentioned by my colleague here, that they access thick forests. So in these thick forests, you have all the biodiversity. So before you reach the mineral of interest, you disturb the environment, so you pollute the environment. So as an environmental regulatory agency, we have a set of regulations that are put in place in order to check some of these problems. When it comes to mine, we have the National Environmental Mining and Processing of Coal, ores, and industrial minerals. And we also have National Environmental Permitting and Licensing System. And we have the third regulation, which has to do with National Environmental Quarrying and Blasting Operations. So all these regulations take care of most of these problems. Like the first one I've mentioned, which has to do with the mining and processing of the coal, ores, and industrial minerals. So everything is stipulated there, what needs to be done right from the beginning before you set out. The basic things these miners need to do is the environmental impact assessment. It needs to be carried out right from the inception before you go into the mining operations, so that we make sure that the overall environment is studied and the possible impact of these mining activities is being taken care of right from the construction of road, the setting of the mining site, up to the decommissioning of the mining site, to ensure that it doesn't impact on the environment. Secondly, after doing the EIA, there is need for the miners to submit what we call environmental impact statement that is coming out of that EIA to our agency. So when we receive that, we follow up. We go there once in a while to ensure compliance. Likewise, after the EIS, those miners that have started before the passing of the EIA Act in 1992, we ensure that they carry out what we call environmental evaluation study to ensure that we look at the whole issue. Likewise, every 3 years, these facilities are expected to carry out what we call environmental audit report and submit to the agency, so that we look at it and ensure that there is compliance to all these things. Likewise, monthly, since most of these mining processes, they use a lot of water, especially in washing their minerals, and also they use some chemicals. So there is need for them to always file what we call monthly effluent discharge report.
Are you talking about artisanal miners with all these EIA, AIE, and other issues you are referring to, and reports that are supposed to be filed to you, or you're talking about the big-time miners?
Both of them, they are required to do so. Okay. But you know, when you talk about artisanal miners, my colleague said from the Commissioner of Mining from Plateau State mentioned that some people call them illegal miners.
Yes.
But he said they are not illegal miners.
Yeah.
So really, when you talk about these artisanal miners, it's very, very difficult for you to get them do most of these things. Most of them, they do it legally. So this is one of the major issues. Like the environmental audit I've mentioned, some small-scale industries are allowed to do what we call environmental management report. They do what we call EMP instead of...
Okay, Prof, you know, we're going to have to pause you in the meantime so that we deal later in the course of the conversation with the environmental issues arising from mining activities, because that has to do with securing the mining environment if the environment and therefore the people and the plants and animals are not healthy? That becomes an issue. Let's bring in our regular guest, Dr. Kabir Adamo, a security expert. Dr. Kabir Adamo, well over a year ago, the federal government announced the ban of all mining activities in Zamfara State. And that was on account of rising level of banditry and other criminal activities. And just a couple of weeks ago, we also heard from the state governor this time indicating that gold is now being traded for arms and ammunition in localities where mining activities are still taking place or were taking place. What is your reading of the issues now arising from mining activities and the security implications that those issues have?
Thank you, Kingsley, and good morning, Nigerians. The two things we're talking about, both mining and security, as it were, in the exclusive list. And the most apparent thing in terms of my perspective on developments regarding mining activity is the apparent lack of coordination between the federal government and the state governments in terms of regulating the activities of miners. The reference you've made in Zamfara, based on a statement issued by the immediate past commissioner of mineral resources, and I can't remember the exact designation for that role, but he was in charge of mineral resources. About 15 licenses were issued, and according to him, of those licenses, only 3 were being implemented. That's licenses for mining. All the other ones were by artisanal miners. Now, going by the statement from the Commissioner of Commissioner of Mining in Plateau State, you could hear apparently that the state government had recognized the value in artisanal mining because, of course, the revenue that they were generating from that artisanal mining. Now, the other side of the equation is the security implication of artisanal mining. Because in the case of Zamfara, as an example, banditry was affecting mining. I know there is a narrative that the miners themselves may be funding the banditry practice itself, but unfortunately, as it were, there is no finding that would prove that. I know a lot of research has gone into that by academics and other practitioners, but there is no correlation really between the mining activity in Zamfara and that. However, let's remember that they too are also victims, because when these bandits come, they can also attack them. So the reference by the Zamfara state governor that they are exchanging gold for weapons may be to protect themselves. I use the word maybe because, like I said, no studies have proven the fact that there is a correlation between the miners and banditry. However, we also know that because there is money in mining activity, the tendency for the owners of the licenses to seek to use non-state actors to protect their turfs is also another element that we have seen recently. The third point I would like to bring up is the porous border within almost all the communities that we're discussing. In the case of Zamfara State, it has a huge border between itself and Niger, and the Ministry of Defense, not too long ago, released a statement that the kind of weaponry that is found in some locations in the northwest, including Zamfara State, weaponry that are coming from Libya, and the possibility of a linkage between the gun-running channels that are being exploited by those that are using the weapons in Zamfara, and then the terrorists that we're seeing in northeast and northwest Nigeria. Now, what that tells us clearly is that the agencies that are responsible for border protection, which in this case are federal agencies, unfortunately have not been able to provide adequate protection for the communities that are in those locations. So which brings the point I made earlier on, that perhaps they're exchanging those resources, the gold, to protect themselves and not necessarily to fund the banditry. So in terms of what my readings are, I'll go back to my earlier statement. The seeming lack of coordination between the federal government and the state government to exploit and take advantage of the abundant resources that we have for mining activities across the country. And because of that apparent lack of coordination, some individuals, both local and international, are exploiting this gap, unfortunately, for their own benefits.
All right, thank you very much, Dr. Kabir Adamu. Let's bring in again Malam Yakubu, Mohammed Yakubu. Malam Yakubu, in one of your earlier comments, yes, you did talk about the challenges that more formalized and small-scale miners like yourself face from artisanal miners. Can you explain further what that challenge is and how you try to resolve whatever issues arise?
Honestly, the basic challenges that we're having with the artisans is, you know, they are the ones that are working harder to bring out the resources from the ground. So they think that they are the ones that will take the lion's share more than we, the companies. They know that there's a lot of, like we, the companies, there are three burdens on us in the Mining Act. One from the district areas where we mine. Then the other one from the government, they need the tax from us. Then the other one, we, the company, that will manage our resources too. So they never think of that, they only think of themselves. So that's why we need more funding on it, so that we can be able to meet up our demands in terms of the security gadgets that will be there, other heavy equipment that will be there to help us meet up our demands.
I just want do you let's use the analogy of fish and water.
Yeah.
I mean, the big fish will be in the bigger seas or bigger oceans, and then the smaller fish will be in the shallower waters. Do you, as a mining company, also mine in the same location as artisanal miners who have no more than pickaxes and shovels and so very basic implements and equipment that they use?
Yes, because, you know, in terms of gold, there are two kinds of gold there. There's a rocky gold, there's a alluvial gold. Alluvial gold, we get it from near the river. Then the rocky gold is a processing from one stage to another. So the one that we are using with the artisanal miners is the rocky gold. So then they have some of the areas where the rocky is. It's not easy to heavy machine to even have access. The local artisanals have access to it. So that's why most of the time they have more. Well, that's why we're facing all this illegal mining there, because they feel they are the ones that work harder there. So they have their way to reach the other off-takers through the illegal people that buy their goods. So that's the basic challenges we're having. So I did mean we get more funds, more security gadgets, more heavy equipment. We can secure the environment more well, organize them to our own test, how we can control them very well, so that government can meet up, so that we can meet the government demands.
Do you have any? Is there any kind of collaboration, you know, between you and those artisanal miners?
Yes, a lot.
Operationally,
yes.
You know, when you
because even as it is, that one day I working on my side, I have more than 500 artisanals on my side.
Working for you?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we're working. That's why I told you there's a lot of money on it. We've been spending money. We get some, we lose some, we get some. But if we have more funds that we can control, secure the site, we have more equipment, so there are more expertise on that. The foreign investors, they have more experience on that, how to arrange them, the citizens, this is how you belong, this is how you be there. Because then because the experts there, there are many resources there. They know more better than us. So we believe with even this coming up international airport that is opening, we hope them to see more investors, because that's where the resources is going now, the gold.
Okay, can we just ask the Commissioner for Minerals in Plateau State, Mr. Dako Chudeli, to explain further on the strategy of your state government with respect to mineral resources. You have told us that the state does not have royalty when it comes to mineral resources, but now you have a commissioner for mineral resources. So I'm thinking that perhaps, I think that perhaps you have a role to play in the sense that you know, we should also have access to some mining sites, as the case may be, or have some kind of you know, synergy, you know, between the states and the federal government. Let us know why you should have this office, because in some states that I know, especially in the southeast of Nigeria, we don't have a Ministry of Solid Minerals. So let us just explain to us. Let's understand the need for this for your office, and how it is also impacting on the administration of your state.
Like I rightly pointed out, we as a ministry, we monitor the activities of miners in Plateau State. And of course, we are known for solid minerals. And our role basically, yes, having placed mining as one of the topmost priority by the current administration of His Excellency Sam Bakola Long, it is pertinent that the ministry carries a lot of regulating activities, so that the activities of the miners will not be endangered, will not be seen as harmful activity to the communities that these minerals are being mined. Of course, I did mention earlier that we have a vehicle, which is the Plateau Mineral Development Company. The company is in full capacity, it's being resuscitated. And the aim of that company is to also go into mining, and then mine as like any other company which is into mining. Which this, by so doing, of course, you know that the company will also pay royalty to the federal government. And the proceeds that's going to be, the proceeds of whatever mineral or whatever resources that's been mined is going to use in developing the state. And of course, the activities of these artisanal miners too, without a ministry, without proper coordination, you will agree with me that of course it causes a lot of havoc to them. Most of them till the ground with local materials, and most of them go beneath. And by going deep, there's no proper protective devices, so that they are not the overburden doesn't collapse on them. But with our monitoring capacity or monitoring regulations, we're able to make sure that, like, currently this is September, you hardly see the artisanal miners on field, because we make sure that we don't allow them to go and mine by this period, because the ground is very soft and it could collapse, except for those that are doing alluvial mining. They go by the riverside and then pick or pack the tin and maybe wash and sell. But if not, basically, our activity, yes, we don't collect royalty, but as government, I did mention we collect haulage, because we need to develop the infrastructure in which these vehicles, yeah, they use roads and they're heavy minerals. Most of them do damage our roads. So without the haulage, how do we repair these roads that are damaged? Within this period, just by January, February, His Excellency came up with Operation Zero potholes through the Ministry of Works. And if you enter Jos, you will discover that there's no pothole currently in Jos, because it's been, the roads, of course, have been, by the Ministry of Works have been reconstructed. Some of them are refurbished. And this is because there are revenues coming in from different quarters, which mining is not an exclusion. And of course, the miners do pay ground rent. We need, of course, the ministry have to checkmate and know that okay, if you don't pay ground rent, these are the consequences of not paying ground rent. And also, the environment is being devastating. Without a ministry to coordinate the activities of the environment, of the miners, it destroys our environment, which you know that after this mining, after the mining activities, there could be, the soil could be used for agriculture. So where there are no coordination or no monitoring, the activities of the miners cause a lot of havoc in the environment. So basically, the ministry carries out those regulations to make sure that our soil or our environment is not completely destroyed.
I still want to stay with you, Commissioner for Solid Minerals Development in Plateau State. Incidentally, on Good Morning Nigeria, several weeks ago, we had the Honorable Minister, who was our guest here in the studios. But I was just wondering, if the more we discuss issues around mining activities of artisanal miners, small-scale miners, and a few big operators, as well as jurisdictional conflict, sometimes between the federal and state governments, the impression that emerges is that the solid minerals sector is in a state of flux. Because if you listen to Malam Yakubu here in our studios, it tells you that artisanal miners are also trying to operate in the same mining area where it probably has a lease or where a company already has a lease. How do we coordinate all of this? How do we clarify who can operate where and when and how? Things were not always like this. I mean, when you had the coal mining in and around Enugu, you didn't have this kind of confusion. When you had tin mining before the advent of crude oil, you didn't have this kind of confusion. But right now, it appears that it's an inchoate stage of solid minerals rejuvenation in our economy.
Yes, currently as a ministry, we are grouping these artisanal miners into cooperatives because we are trying to bring them together so that we can be able to access where they are doing their activities. The conflict, yes, might arise from maybe if the big miners are trying to shortchange them. Because a local miner believes that after bringing out a small mineral, he's expecting the bigger miners to consider him. But of course, in most, it's business. Sometimes they will be oversmart. There are smart moves from both sides. The artisanal miners feels they are the ones that brings out the mineral. But the buyers also feel, okay, this is my money. I am buying this to sell. And of course, it's also targeting the cost of transportation and the cost of exportation. So the conflict, of course, sometimes we, as a ministry, we do come in to make sure that there's no conflict between the artisanal miners and the commercial miners. And again, the artisanal miners, their activities sometimes they don't have license. But if they are mining on the particular license, the particular lease, the owner of the lease must be informed. Because you cannot go into mining without getting a license. So if there's a particular lease that these artisanal miners are operating on, it has to be in understanding with the owner of the lease. If not, sometimes there will be conflict. And most of the times, these artisanal miners believe that they are the indigenous owners of the particular land. And of course, there should be consideration. And of course, in the Mining Act, it's clearly spelled out. The CDA spelled out. If the miner is operating on the particular field, there's a community development agreement that's been signed. That clears the issue of landowners and the miner. But in the event where his product is being mined without his consent, that is an invitation to to misunderstanding.
I didn't quite get his explanation. At some point, he seemed to be talking about marketers or the purchasers of gold or tin or other solid minerals that are mined. But when you listen to Malam Yakubu, he says, "Look, I have a mining lease. A mining lease covers an area, and so will the artisanal miner also have a right of operating in the same area?"
He has also accepted the fact that there's a collaboration between him and the artisanal miners. So I think they have the common understanding of how to operate in a particular area. You may have a lease, and of course you allow the artisanal miners to mine. These are small miners, you know, who you cannot compare them with the capacity of what you have. You know, you are mining with some machinery. They are mining with pigs and all of that, and some implements.
We use the heavy duty, we need the machines to open the pits for them, to help them have access to the pits. Yes.
So invariably there's a collaboration.
Yes, as a collaboration.
But you don't have trained miners?
No, we do. Most of them, they are fully trained. You see, artisanals, they are fully trained. Most of them, they have been working there. They have been working from a different environment. Most of them, they are working for more than 20 years.
So they have experience?
Yes, they have more experience, yeah. They have experience, much. They have. That's why even the experts, when they came, we are expecting them to learn them more on that area. They can manage the heavy equipment. They have more experience.
Okay. Now, the Ali Jaraprof, you know, the DG of Environmental Standards and Regulatory, that we have so many mining sites in Nigeria, and I'm just wondering whether your agency, you know, has the capacity, you know, to monitor all these mining sites, especially in the northern part of the country, where some mining activities are taking place. We also know that there are areas where illegal mining could be taking place in somewhere, you know, that may not have been detected for now, right? So do you have the capacity, really, you know, to ensure that all the regulatory measures that have been put in place, you know, to safeguard mining sites and also protect, you know, communities from being, you know, infected with any kind of maybe lead poison and other substances that may, you know, be as part of an offshoot of mining activities?
Yes, we do have the capacity. Presently, we have presence in 30 states of the Federation, and we have 6 zonal offices, one in each of the geopolitical zones of the country. And once in a while, these officers go around to take stock of all mining sites that are coming up, and also quarrying sites, those that quarry these stones for building construction. So they go once in a while to ask for necessary documents and also to inspect the mining sites to ensure compliance. The remaining 6 states that we are not present, those offices close by, they do go there once in a while. Also the zonal offices, they also go there. But you know, the major challenge of we are facing in this country is lack of voluntary compliance. So we always try to sensitize the public on the need for them to comply voluntarily, because it's easier for both of us. If you do that, you are doing it for yourself. If you don't carry out this mining activity in the best way, definitely you are going to affect the environment you live in, just like the example of lead mining. We all know what happened in Zamfara. A lot of lives were lost because of the associated lead that was found with the gold deposits. So it's very, very important for the community also to ensure that they report all illegal mining activities, because we cannot be everywhere at once. Nigeria is a very large country. Some of these mining sites are deep inside the forest. So we may not know until it is reported to us. And most people, they like to go on doing this mining business illegally without getting through the required channel, getting the right registration, getting the environmental impact assessment done. So we urge the public to also do their best in reporting some of these illegal mining sites that we are unable to locate, so that we can go there and do the right thing.
What is the level of cooperation or collaboration between NSREA and the Inspectorate Department of the Ministry of Mines?
Yes, we have had a lot of collaborations. We sit down and discuss a lot of issues, especially on how to secure this mining site and reduce the impact on the environment. If you look at the Minerals and the Mining Act of 2007 also, likewise the Minerals and Mining regulations, they also consider issues to do with environment. They mentioned stipulated that it is very, very important for all these miners to ensure compliance with the environmental regulations, because at the end of the day, if this is not done, the environment would be impacted. And when it is impacted, all the people living around, not only all the people, and even the animals living around may find it very, very difficult.
Do you have any example or examples you can tell our viewers as to how NSREA, for instance, has intervened in a mining location where best practices were not being observed?
Well, even recently, we received a petition of a mining site in a village called Kutasa, where they mine gold. And we went to the site. It's a very remote location, bad road. It took us 3 hours. We were told that it's Kuje area. So I thought it's a place I can just go in 30 minutes. So you can see the difficulty. So before we access that place, so we went there and we saw the site. Unfortunately, we couldn't get the manager of the facility, the managing director, and they are working in conjunction with the expatriates, the Chinese. So they quickly went and they hid in their rooms. They refused to come out. But we went around and we did what is required of us. We took soils and water samples, because the communities complain that their drinking water is being polluted. So you know, this water is not only for drinking. We human beings, we drink the water, and also they use the water. They are animals also, livestock. They take this water. So when you have high concentration of some of these heavy metals, like lead, they tend to accumulate, not in human beings, also the animals. So when you slaughter some of these animals, you consume, you are taking in these heavy metals.
So what was the result of the samples you took? Or have you been following that up?
We have sent them for analysis. So, and we have written to the facility owners to come forward with the necessary documents. If they have them, then we look at the next course of action, depending on the outcome of the laboratory analysis. And if they don't have them, we are going to sanction them appropriately.
What sanctions are normally available?
There are several sanctions. For instance, if they don't have environmental impact statement, if it's not produced, that means they have not done that. So for facilities that involve quarrying and blasting operations, if it's an individual, the penalty is close to around 1 million. It can be fined up to 1 million, and the person can also be jailed, or the combination of the two. But if it's a corporate body, the fine is up to a sum of 10 million. And anytime if this thing continues, there's a daily fine of 50,000 naira. So we are going to follow up to ensure that we secure this this environment, especially the communities that are impacted by this mining activity.
Well, could we just ask Dr. Kabir Adamu to speak to some of the contributions made by other guests, vis-a-vis security risk management involved. We were talking about protecting the communities, and from what Nezra DG has just told us, he was informed about mining activity in an area near Kuje where the community leaders had to do a report that their water is being polluted by the mining activities.
Thank you, Kiran. The two major things that over time have emerged is, the hazard from mining. The case of Plateau State is very apparent. If you've been there, you will see this deep, what I would describe as gorges, very deep. They look like natural ponds, but they're actually man-made ponds from mining activities that occurred in the past. And like the DG has mentioned, they have an impact on human activity as well as livestock. I know, for instance, that a lot of people have fallen into those gorges and died. Animals too, while grazing sometimes, fall and die. That's apart from other environmental hazards that those deep holes that we have created. In certain instances, and like the Commissioner in Plateau State has mentioned, these illegal mining activities create situations where the miners themselves are exposed to risk. So there is a collapse of the overhanging soil as well. I don't know the technical term for that, but they collapse on the miners and they die. A lot of that is being experienced in Nigeria, unfortunately undocumented. But we know from interaction and our studies that a lot of people die from that type of activity. Then with regards to the security risk, what I've spoken is the hazard component. But for this, as far as the security risk is concerned, I think nothing has brought it out clearly, like the statement by the Zamfara State Governor when he indicated that some of these miners were exchanging gold for weapons. We spoke about it earlier. And if you look at the case of Kuje as an example, that is one area we know where banditry activities, kidnapping has been ongoing. Like I said earlier on, there is no correlation based on scientific studies that has established a correlation between banditry and mining. Although, unfortunately, there is a lot of narrative out there by different persons that that connection, correlation exists. But like I said, there is no scientific study that has proven that. The second component, which is also very important, is the proliferation of small arms and light weapons. Now, all of these communities that we're talking about where the mining activities takes place, they are not in isolation. They are also part of Nigeria where these small arms and light weapons are in circulation. And because there is value in that particular activity, the tendency for non-state actors to be incorporated to protect the locations where this mining activity is taking place. And my co-discussant has alluded to that. He has a license, a lease agreement. He wants to, exploit or invest in that license, that lease agreement. But he also knows the risk in the environment where he's going to invest. So as an example, if he brings in heavy equipment or even expatriates and attempts to go to that location, two things could happen to let's talk about the expatriates. They could be kidnapped or in some instances even killed, by the criminals that operate in that environment. So to protect those assets, the expatriate and the equipment, he needs to involve either the public security or non-state actors. So those are the kind of risks in those environments, and I think the discussions have brought out those risks.
I was just wondering, Dr. Kabir Adamu, are we paying enough attention officially to security issues around mining, considering the many matters that keep popping up in terms of the challenges that the small and not so small miners have, and what we keep hearing about foreigners who are coming into the country. Yes, the official agencies say they have difficulties traveling to those locations, but the foreigners who come have no difficulties in traveling to those remote locations to go on either encouraging illegal mining or to buy off what has been mined. Are we paying sufficient attention to all of this against the backdrop of also what we hear with kidnappers? You keep hearing that, oh, they have camps. And security agencies tend to be concentrated in urban areas or semi-rural areas, and the camps where they are located in the so-called thick forest, which is not in the rainforest, by the way, the camps are proliferating. And mining activities is as if, any person who has some connection or some contact and is bold enough or has the liver, as Malam Yakubu says, could very well carry on his or activities, and nothing stops him or her. And considering the economic losses arising from all of this, isn't it a wake-up call for us to do something?
And of course, in addition, the foreign miners, that find their way into those forests, how did they get here? Is there any collaboration with, of course, people like Yakubu, them who have, the license to operate or lease to operate in certain areas? Because I recall that in Zamfara area, I remember the Zamfara episode, that a lot of Chinese miners, were found in Zamfara area. And of course, when they say you exchange gold with arms and all that, we don't know who was doing that. But if you have foreigners who are engaged in mining in Nigeria, who cannot be identified, as DG Nesra told us a short while ago, that when he got to the site in question, then the miners refused to come out from their camps.
All right, Dr. Adam will take the question.
So in my opening remarks, I mentioned that the major challenge is the apparent lack of coordination between the federal institutions and some of the state institutions. The two issues are in the exclusive list: mining, as it were, and security. And unfortunately, even though they're in the exclusive list, the actual activity takes place on the ground in the states. So it is more or less the mandate of the state to ensure that whatever the federal government has issued is being carried out effectively. I know there are federal institutions like NESRA that are there to ensure compliance, but unfortunately, given the size of Nigeria, it will be a bit difficult to ensure that kind of compliance. So I think the way forward is to enhance coordination between the federal and the state institutions.
Well, the state governments have no security outfits of their own.
So that's an issue of, I would say, national discourse. The national security architecture is being reevaluated at the moment, and that particular element you've mentioned is, I think, being discussed. However, I think one thing that, for me, brought out this apparently and clearly is during the lockdown a few months ago, some Chinese individuals came to Nigeria during the lockdown and found themselves in Jos, Plateau State. It was in the news. They had to be tested. So how come even during the lockdown that these persons were able to arrive into Nigeria, travel all the way to Jos before they were finally identified? So that brought clearly to me this gap that I've been talking about. Let's remember that coordination that I mentioned would require a lot of agencies who issues travel or visas for these foreign individuals. It's the Ministry of Interior through the Immigration Service. And they are the ones, and then of course the licenses are issued by the Ministry of, I think, Mine. So these two bodies, do they have a way of monitoring the movement of this type of expatriates? Or is it a case of where expatriates use expatriate quota? For instance, someone is supposed to be a cook, but in reality it's actually a miner. So the Ministry of, or the Immigration Service or the Ministry of Mining has no way of knowing that that person is actually a miner. But those that actually have the knowledge are the communities. And that is why I think the way to go is enhanced coordination between the state government, the communities, and the federal government.
All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen. We're going to have to take a short break now. When we return, we'll continue.
A new edition of TV Guide is out, featuring great personalities from all walks of life. Expository interview with a young TV presenter who shows passion on what she does, Morayo Afolabi Brown of TVC. Pick a copy of this compendium of mind-blowing stories and get abreast with issues as regards media convergence, leadership, health, star profiles, star programs, fashion, sports, human angle stories, and lots more. Meet some media professionals within our space who have paid their dues in no small ways. TV Guide, very incisive, very educative and compelling. Grab a copy at the vendor near you or NTA stations nationwide. TV Guide, your indispensable companion.
As as a strong immune system increases the chances of victims surviving COVID-19. A corruption-free society creates opportunities for citizens to thrive and prosper. Build your immunity. Stop corruption now. Report all acts of corruption to ICPC on this toll-free number 0800 2255 4272. This message is brought to you by ICPC and NTA.
She cries. She cries in anguish and in pain. She bears the scourge of her grief. She toils in vain for justice and succumbs to silence. He gloats over his malady. Like a beast, he pounces with no remorse. Her cry means nothing. Her pain feeds her shame. Like an orphan, she's left to grieve in solitude. But no more will she cry in vain. Her adversaries will henceforth bear the brunt of their cruelty. Rape is evil. Rape is a plague, a pandemic of monumental consequences. We must unite and kick it out of our society.
Connect with NTA and stand against rape and rapists. This message is brought to you by the Nigerian Television Authority, NTA.
We thank you for staying with us on Good Morning Nigeria. Now we go to the tweets, as many Nigerians are beginning to contribute their own quota to this conversation. We begin with Field Marshal Muhammad. He says the state government, where mineral resources are located, or the states where mineral resources are located, have to empower the local government so that adequate monitoring and protection can be achieved. The state and local government must work closely to achieve this.
All right, now let's go to Mike Anyanko. It says, since the advent of petroleum in Nigeria, less attention has been given to a vastly rich mining subsector. That has resulted in what we are witnessing today, namely age-long neglect. But the situation can be ameliorated if adequate security is placed in our mining communities.
All right, OTs, where as long as Nigeria lack needed technology to operate these sectors, Nigeria will listen and obey what the investors put on table.
Chris Simeon, there are illegal mining activities in some parts of the country. In this case, the federal government should set up a special task force to checkmate it. Any illegal miner caught should face the full wrath of the law so as to serve as a deterrence to others.
Solomon, it's well known that illegal miners in Nigeria often front for politically connected individuals who collaborate with foreign nationals and corporations to sell gold. These minerals are often and routinely smuggled to other countries through neighboring border countries.
Steve Bond 007, state and community police are needed. It's a shame that foreigners seem to enjoy our solid mineral resources than Nigerian citizens.
Benji is talking about federal government properties belong to no one. The local governments are incapacitated by the states. Under true federalism, all hands must be on deck, and that is the real solution to most of Nigeria's problems. Only federal government cannot manage this great country and its resources.
Law Alpha say there has to be implementation of relevant laws aimed at stopping illegal mining activities.
All right, Kimboy says Nigeria is blessed with abundance of minerals that can make our country prosper and improve our quality of life. Sadly, many of these non-renewable minerals are mined illegally, causing damage to our environment. Monitoring and enforcement are key to securing the mining communities.
You have Mutara Farouk. The mining industry should be organized, commercial ventures such as we have in the oil and gas industry. If this is done properly, it will ward off illegal miners whose activities sometimes constitute insecurity to life and property in the communities where they operate.
Abdul Salam Bello, government hasn't given much priority to what is happening in the sector for a long time, and that has created a lacuna and impunity in the sector. There's hardly any local government area in this country where mining does not take place. The problem is that we don't have, rather we don't care about what and how it's being done.
All right, Nanjo Dugule says, with adequate exploitation and utilization of natural resources and also balance in distribution of financial and social amenities, this would help reduce security issues to the minimal level. Let's bring in again Malam Yakubu. Malam Yakubu, my colleague Kirian was driving at some point about how foreigners come into the country in different parts of the country, and they have access to mining sites, or they have access to artisanal miners, they cut away whatever they have mined, and the country gets cheated by it all. Now there is a presumption that some of these foreigners work in collaboration with local persons, and presumably some of these persons are those who otherwise have licenses or have access to mining sites. What's your reaction?
Honestly, my one contribution, like where I mine, there is no foreigners there much, because even the people that we take them there, they're Chinese. We have been working with some of the Chinese to see that whether we can further more on the mining industry, or the gold mining industry. But honestly, the way I'm hearing more about other states like Zamfara, so there are a lot of things that happen in there. But in our own mining area in Niger State, we don't have much cases like that for now. So I didn't know much about, I don't know much about collaboration of Chinese on that areas of Zamfara, because I don't mine there. But the area I mine, I know much about it, like Shiruru, where I mine.
The Chinese with whom you work, or the other nationals with whom you work, do you ascertain that indeed they have the appropriate permit to be in Nigeria and to undertake the kind of activities they are carrying on with you and your company?
Yes, for now, the one that we are using is, we are going to do that process for now. So, but other ones that people are facing, the illegal foreigners are facing, for now, our company, we are not facing it for now.
I think anybody you should have who is a foreigner, you must have done the needful initially, to ascertain his status before he gets into any kind of activity in Nigeria.
Yes, because even the ones that we're expecting them to come from Brazil, they are there sometimes, and they visit my site, they're there sometimes in December or so. They promised to come back by January, February, till this pandemic came in. So they didn't come back. So I've been keeping in touch with them, but they are saying that after I see, even the Brazil is one of the toughest pandemic this thing now. So I think we're hoping to see more from them with this latest presentation that Babu Bari made.
Malam Yakubu, again, we have to focus on you to answer this question. Okay. The allegation, of course, is not being made against you per se, but because you are an operator in the sector. There are rampant stories as to how people just get gold in the country and sell them off, and there's very little accounting, and things are just going on as though we had no laws, we had no regulation or otherwise, until recently when the government now started talking about beneficiation, that is to say value addition. But it appears as if, look, any foreigner could come in with a briefcase, buy all the gold, raw gold that you could find in whatever location, take them out, and that was it.
Yeah, thank you very much for giving me this. If we want to move more forward on this issue, to solve all this problem, honestly, that's why we said we operators, we need more funding, so that we can have control of our people there, so that they will not have, no matter how we are controlling the artisanal, they must have their way to pack some of the gold without letting you know it. So with this expertise that we are bringing them in, we're having the more security gadgets and everything, I believe that we will meet up our demands. So without all these things, without this funding, honestly, that's why I'm talking about the funding. Because the funding will make you have access to more vigilante there, we have access to all the security agencies, the mobile police, all the people that they are meant for the project. So funding that's the most number one priority there.
But now, if we're talking about funding,
yes,
would it be extended to the issue of having value addition to what you produce? Because
yes,
when
yes.
you sell raw,
yes,
it does appear that the nation is losing a lot.
Yes. So because even the local, sorry, even the local machine we're using, there will be waste because they are local fabric that we make within the Nigeria. But you see, foreigners, they are all their machines, they are well equipped, well measures, so they know how to manage all the resources. That's why we need them quickly if truly want to meet up our demands. So we need all these things to be done in the right way so that we can easily have access to all what we need.
Give us a sense of what plays out now. You mine, so what happens? After you get your raw good, what happens?
Honestly, like we mine and we sell our gold locally. So even as it is, we need the government. That's why we need the government close to us. So that like our side is very rich. Even the way they are talking of Oshun, they are talking of other states. Our mine is more than that because the Chiroro is first class. I have all the data with me. It's first class. The gold there is the data there is first class. So it's done by the foreign investors, foreign partners. So what we need is the government to do the needful so that we can meet up their demands. That's all.
Okay, let Mr. Dako Jude Lee, Commissioner for Solid Minerals, tell us more about foreigners who are involved in mining in Nigeria. As Malam Yakubu said earlier on, recall when we had the lockdown, that some Chinese individuals were found in Jos, although they were quarantined for a while, and tested before they went down. So let us know what your state is doing in terms of ensuring that any foreigner who is in any mining site in Nigeria has the right status, to be in Nigeria and to carry out such activity, which is highly economical and beneficial.
Okay, let me quickly correct that the Chinese nationals came in, yes, at the period of corona pandemic, but actually it was not within the lockdown period, because I know vividly the time they came in, and they were quarantined, and of course ascertained by the State Ministry of Health. Their status were confirmed negative before they were allowed to carry on with their activities. But they didn't come in during lockdown, as it's said by the doctor. Of course, as a ministry, everybody or anybody that comes in, there's collaborations between us and the local government chairman, and even the village chiefs or the village heads, because anytime a miner comes in, if you have a lease, you must have the lease. And to get the lease, you must go to the community. And by so doing, the community head must sign, and there's a consent that you will get from the community to allow you mine in that particular community. Because if you don't collaborate with the indigenous people there, you will not find it easy. There will be difficulty in you accessing where these minerals are. So there's collaboration between the ministry, the state ministry, and local government, and even the community where these minerals are being mined. And again, before obtaining a license, you must use the consent given to you by the community. Now, after obtaining that license, when you come to start mining or you come to start exploration, it depends on whether it's a mineral, whether it's an exploration license or SSML, which is the small mining lease, or the mining lease proper. But if you come with your exploration lease, you have to come for, your first point of call should be with the state government, the ministry, so that we can now link you up to the local government and then subsequently to the community where you're going to carry out the activity. So we are in collaboration with them. And of course, some find their ways to the villages without coming to the ministry. And of course, where we discover such people, we quickly report it back to the mines officer for appropriate sanctions.
Thank you. I want to come back to Professor Aliu Jaro of Nigeria, and still on Plateau. Earlier, Dr. Kabir Adamu was talking about the tin pits, the tin mining pits that have now been abandoned, and of course they now, as it were, become flooded and are therefore ponds. I recall some years ago, the then governor of the state, Jonah Jang, indicated that perhaps there were very serious health issues arising from the use of the water from such disused or abandoned mining pits. Some of them they use for construction, for building of blocks, or just construction of their homes. And it appeared that there were some cases of cancer, most likely traceable to the use of water sources or water from those mining pits. As Nigeria attempted to focus on the environmental hazards arising from those abandoned or disused mining pits in and around Jos or elsewhere in the country?
Well, the Honorable Minister of Mineral Resources of Plateau State mentioned that mining in Plateau started around 1902. So some of these mining pits, they have been there since that time. And that time, the mining profession is not well regulated, so they do it the way they like. But ideally, any mining site, at the end of the operation, is supposed to reclaim that land. That is, if you remove an overburden, you place it somewhere, so when you are done, you are required to put it back so that you can even replace the topsoil so that it can be fertile and can be used for agriculture. But for the fact that most of them did not do that, that's why we still have most of these ones. And definitely, as we mentioned, most of these minerals, like the tin mineral, the cassiterite, you find it associated with other minerals and heavy metals. And some of these heavy metals, they have a lot of health implications. When you take water from it, if you drink it, you get some of these things into your system.
But have you been able to try and have you been able to investigate any of those water lumps?
Yes, investigate and then initiate remediation measures.
Exactly.
Yes, as an agency, we enforce compliance. So since most of those that have carried out these mining activities, they cannot be traced, so there's nobody to be held responsible. So maybe the only solution is for the state government to come in and see how these sites are going to be remediated, and also to forestall further occurrence. Because even presently, mining is going on in Plateau, and when you're traveling from Abuja to Plateau, you see these artisanal miners just mining anyhow. So we always go there to sensitize the miners, and we need to cooperate very well with the state government to see that those sites that have been impacted now, where mining is taking place, that they are well reclaimed, so that we don't have
artisanal mining, they say is a culture in some places in Nigeria, so people cannot really exist without getting involved in artisanal mining. And well, the Commissioner for Minerals in Jos said, look, that instead of calling them illegal miners, they have made them, have cooperatives, so that they will not be regarded as illegal miners. All right, Kingsley, we have to
I just wanted to get the closing thoughts of Dr. Kabir Adamu. Dr. Kabir Adamu, again, back to your original comment, what more would you like to see done so that the mining communities are better secured physically, so that when mining thrives, of course, there's more revenue for the operatives and then the government itself. Are we on the right track to doing this, or we are still some distance away from ensuring that the mining communities are secured? Now, because if we are seeing the exchange of gold for guns, who says that the more guns you have, the more audacious that people are likely to be?
The history of other parts of the world tells us exactly that the more you involve non-state actors in the protection of mining communities, then the more the security challenges in that community will expand. It's obvious, because those non-state actors don't respect the constitutional provisions that public security practitioners would respect. So what you will have is turf of influences, and those turf of influences will start clashing among themselves. So the way to go, I mean, I'm very happy with the statement by the Zamfara state government. He embraced an initiative that was started by the federal government, which is to conduct an audit, because that's the first thing. You cannot manage what you don't know. Conduct an audit, get an idea of the kind of mining activities that are going on. Firstly, how many licenses have been issued, really? Let's start with that. Who are the owners of those licenses? Those that are actually trying to invest with those licenses, and then those that have just collected them and have either given them out, and others are exploiting it illegally. So conduct an audit, have an idea of that. By going by the statement by the Zamfara state governor, the initiative by the federal government to conduct that audit.
Yes, sorry, we are running out of time. You made a very good point there, but time won't allow you to continue. So, Kabir Ademo, thank you for your perspective. Thank you for coming.
Thank you for having me.
All right, we also would like to appreciate Mr. Dako Jude Eli, Commissioner for Solid Minerals, Plateau State. Thank you indeed for your contribution, and the DG Nezria is also been great talking to you this morning. Yakubu Muhammad Yakubu, who is a mining operator, we also appreciate you. You are coming on TV for the first time.
Thank you very much.
As you told us, right? And Kingsley has also commended you for doing very well.
Thank you very much.
All right, we hope to see you another day.
Thank you very much.
All right.
All right, so that's it on Good Morning Nigeria. We're back tomorrow, same time, 7 in the morning. Stay safe and be well. I'm Kingsley Osadolo.
And I'm Kirian Umayo. Have a great day.